Hello, everybody. Today's Builder Chat with Chad is sponsored by Versatex. Versatex is a company that was founded back in 2004 by building industry professionals dedicated to bringing quality PVC building products to the building industry. Yes, that's over 17 years of providing the industry with exceptional moldings, trim boards, and many other PVC accessories. Their products are strong, durable, lightweight, and easy to install. Their trim is resistant to moisture, insects, and capable of below-grade installation where required. But beyond that, why do I really like Versatex? Well, personally, I like them because they're responsive when I need a teammate to answer my questions and help me through a design. As a sole proprietor architect, this is as important as it gets for me in a professional relationship. They become an extension of my practice. When you're looking for your next trim options, look no further than Versatex.
Welcome to the Unbuild It podcast. I'm Jake Bruton. Today I'm joined by my co-host Steve Basic.
That's a weak welcome. Hey everybody, welcome to the Unbuild It podcast.
Steve just likes to scream so that everybody has to turn their audio version down.
Yeah. It needs to be dynamic.
Like
you need to be able to
yes.
feel the podcast. Can't just
Okay.
it's not just something you listen to. It needs to be emotional. Maybe you're not as excited as I am to be here, but
I can tell that I'm not as excited as you. And if you were listening closely, you heard a third voice. Today we are joined by Chad Gessin. Chad, say hello.
Hey guys.
Chad is with First Dunes, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are, we'll get into the bio, but you guys are on Long Island, but the majority
Correct.
of the stuff that you're doing is a little further out on the island, or no?
So yeah, we're on Long Island, which is a great way to say it. That's the proper way to say it, and not in Long Island. And our boundaries of construction, I usually describe as the Hudson River, the Long Island Sound, and the Atlantic Ocean, because we also build, as you can see sort of over my shoulder, we also build multifamily buildings in New York City under our other company called Chatham Development Company. And yeah, so we do build, the First Dunes name is our custom home building division, and we do build basically all of Nassau and Suffolk County. So that's the suburbs of New York City, from right there on the New York City border all the way out to the end of Montauk.
Okay. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the area, it's the little dangly bit below New York City that runs east-west, right?
And
that's a good way for
the little geography
everybody
lesson
else.
geology lesson that we all learn here on Long Island in fourth grade is that we're just all of the spoils of the glaciers moving across North America and melting and depositing rocks and sand, and that's what we live on.
That's funny. Okay, so give us your
glacier
backstory.
trash.
We are glacier trash for sure.
I feel like glacier trash is more of an insult than anybody could ever expect it to be.
Ironically,
I feel like if somebody yelled that at me in traffic, I would have a bad day.
Ironically, we there's a project that we had done in a central Long Island called a village called North Hills, and we referred to the soil we would excavate under the foundations as North Hills Gold, which means that it is just completely silty clay soil that is undrainable. And yet if you go 5 miles away and you dig a hole in the ground, you will pull out construction grade sand. And that's kind of the conditions that we deal with out here. It just varies a bit because it's just whatever washed off the glacier.
Again, every time I talk to a builder in another market, I think, man, I've got it easy. Like our soil tests are all the same. The where we dig, there's either a little bit of rock or no rock. Like I have it very easy in the sense of what my job entails from a site standpoint and like clientele. So I always you're reiterating my love for where I build, even though I'm sure you're happy where you build. So give us how did you start in this business, Chad? What is your history with the company that you're with?
So my company is a family business that is my father, Harvey, my sister, and myself. in the generation before that, my parents who are divorced now, my mom and my dad in the 70s transitioned my grandfather's electrical business. So they were electrical contractors in New York City, commercial construction, and they did that, and they moonlighted as small building developers in Manhattan in the 70s. Building, 25-foot wide, 10 story, brick and Q deck buildings, that they turned into co-ops and condos. My grandfather before that got his start in the trades out in Reading, Pennsylvania, converting gas piping inside of houses to electrical conduit to illuminate homes. So my dad, primarily is the foundation of the business. And the long and short of it is, there was a pretty major recession in the end of the 80s. And my dad had a really nice run at that prior to that, building multifamily buildings in Manhattan. And the market just dissolved. It was kind of like the recession of the '08, where everybody was flipping and specking and all this stuff. And my dad didn't do much for 2 years, but he didn't get injured. He made money in that market and sort of sat on his butt. And he was a builder developer and just was sitting waiting for something to happen. And bankers started coming to him that he worked with and said, oh, there's this project that we own now that's 800 houses in Long Island, and this other one, and we lived in Long Island. And they said, why don't you take these over? And my dad was like, I've never built a house before. And they said, well, if you can build an apartment building, you can definitely build a house. And the developers of these projects who are builders, they have no money, but they will stay with you and show you what to do. And so my dad had a run in the 90s with two partners in a company called Island Estates, where they built a few thousand, production homes of, a couple thousand square feet, and pretty basic $200,000, $300,000 homes in the heyday of Long Island's growth. And there was a period of time when there was a split made where my dad, wanted to go down the luxury route and his partners wanted to stay in that production. And my dad sort of says, my dad really can't he can't build a bad house. And it's a problem if you're trying to sell a house for $200,000. And what he would say is that, I can't have my profit margin depend on whether I lost a box of nails or not. And that was really the transition. And so as it would happen over time, we got into building custom homes for clients. And that was a very small part of our business. And most of it was buying land, whether it be a house that we knocked down, an old house, or a piece of blank land, and building a custom spec home and then marketing that and selling that. And we've done a ton of that since 2002 in an area in West Hampton called West Hampton Beach, Long Island, on the Barrier Beach, that was destroyed due to some really bad governmental planning of jetty systems. And I know I'm talking on a lot here, but basically what happened is a 4-mile stretch of land that got completely eviscerated over the course of 25 years of erosion, because the Army Corps of Engineers stopped short of the last 2 jetties and left this last piece of the barrier in Southampton, the town of Southampton, exposed. And a series of nor'easters took out about 3 miles of the land and about 200 houses. And these people ultimately seceded from the town of Southampton, created their own village to sue the state of New York and the federal government and the county. And ultimately, the Army Corps of Engineers stepped up to the plate and settled it by saying, everybody, you lost your houses, but we'll put the land back for you. And when that happened, my dad, in that quiet period in the 90s, had bought a marina across the bay from this area, and to be a nice guy, was providing people rides to go to their houses that they couldn't get to, that were floating in the ocean, to get their stuff. And so he was familiar with this. And when it started to get rebuilt, he was like, oh, maybe I can make some money there and buy some lots. And so he came out and he started building houses there. And he was late to the game. There's some other people there. And what he noticed was people were building terrible houses. They were building houses where you open the front door and you can't see the ocean, but if you walk around a wall, the ocean's right there. And then they're building houses elevated on pilings 12 feet up, where the entire underside of the first floor system is insulated with fiberglass bats, but open to the air. And all the plumbing is in there. So every one of these people has a broken pipe in October. And so my dad started to buck against the trend, as he always did, and came up with some crazy methods where all of our piping for the first floors, even though we build these houses airtight now, is in the ceiling of the first floor anyway, because we just don't do it. We don't mess around like that. And he, elevated the market over years. And I stepped into that business when I was 17. I was driving out there for a paycheck, being a handyman, fixing locks and, hanging plywood onto these houses and using the early versions of canned spray foam. True story, actually. They didn't originally make canned spray foam that was meant for installing overhead. They just made one kind. And they would give me these cans and have me, do the joints of the plywood. And I was rough shaven like this and it dripped on my face. And we had no like acetone or like nail polish remover. And so within about 10 minutes, I had a sheen of spray foam adhered to my face that I had to go to the hospital and have removed. So I mean, but the point is that like I put my labor into making sure people's feet were warm in these houses in the winter. And, that's basically our whole story to where we come. And I guess now what we've sort of transitioned into, especially with, the past several years, we've hit a flywheel effect where we're building much nicer houses, much more energy efficient houses, much more comfortable houses, much more durable houses. And people realize that now. They're living 12 months in the houses that we build, where our competitors don't build 12-month capable houses. And so we get paid more for that. Now we've become very popular as a custom builder. And so actually now most of our work is custom and only a few of our projects per year are specs.
So can we say the moral of the First Dunes story is that as long as you push to do things better and you continually get better, people at some point will notice and they will pay for it. And you will be more successful than some of your competitors because you're doing things the right way.
Yeah, 100%. And we're like, I've been really into Peloton recently to lose some weight. And there's an instructor who says progress over perfection. And I think that that's a really big deal with what we're trying to do, which is like, I built a house one way in 2019 and like learned some stuff from it. And like, it may have not been wrong, but as Mike Gerton says, like I like wake up in 2020 and I'm like, I probably need to change the name of the company, But at the same time, it's like, it's not a mistake. It's just different and it probably works. But in 2020, we've got a whole new way to do it maybe. And that's good too. And getting paid for like what we all do, like good quality construction that we care about. Honestly, it's not important to me about getting paid for that, frankly. I am going to do that whether I'm getting paid more or less than somebody else, because I don't come to work to make money. I come to work to like learn, build nice stuff, and also know that like we give a lifetime warranty on stupid. That's what I always tell people. So like we try to not be stupid, and if we are stupid, then we own it.
Yep. That's a fantastic one. We actually have that in our like disclosures document that we give to potential clients or to new clients with their contract. And, it talks about hardwood flooring can be various colors in the same lot. Tile might have, we might have to order more waste for specific types. And while we give you the basic HBA or NHAB, but the National Home Builders Association's warranty, that doesn't apply to we did something wrong.
Yeah.
If we did something wrong, we're going to come back and fix it. But I like your idea of saying we warranty stupid. And for those of you that are just listening, you can't see the inquisitive face that Mr. Basic is making, and I can't tell if he has a question to ask or if his computer locked up. And now he just sits there. He lingers. Okay, so then you've been with the company solid since 99?
I mean, I went to college in the period from 2000 to 2004, but every summer over college, that was my summer job was, progressively from handyman, then to like permit expediting. I didn't step into a supervision role until 2005 when I graduated. And at that point, I was project manager for a 144 unit townhouse development that we did, where my dad and his partner, God bless them, had a brilliant idea that we were going to have 5 models, but anybody could customize anything inside any of those homes to any spec they wanted. And so I ran which was a total mess, but it worked and we got it done. I ran the customer service part of that and the project management side of dealing with 144 custom homes built over the course of 30 months.
Goodness. I'm glad I don't have to project manage 144 custom homes over my entire career, probably.
I mean, the good thing that we have is that, like, well, I'm super lucky. Like, we don't have any employees. We have one new employee who's working with us for just a year. But like my super, one of my supers has been with my father for 41 years. And another one of our supers has been with us since he's 16 and he's 39. So the good thing is that my guys in the field, it's a situation where it's like, they don't need a lot of project management. They need you to just tell them what they're building and leave them alone and answer their questions.
I feel like if I were to go back to bags on, I could probably do you give me the appropriate amount of information, I'll call you when the house is done by myself. Just being the on-site guy. But man, I wish I had that in reverse. I wish that I had even our team that we feel like is very well put together, and the people that we've worked with over the last 5 years. It still is. It's still babysitting sometimes. I'm sure you have babysitting sometimes too.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're doing a thing. We're on a journey the past year. We have been like we did a crash course in bringing Builder Trend into our business this year, and like we're actually going through Builder Trend on-site consulting this month, and we have our on-site next week, and like the difference of the quality of experience we're providing to the customer, and also the lifestyle that my supers are living with, like less stress by bringing a really great project management layer into there. It's fantastic. It's great. And ironically, I used to hang up on Builder Trend every time they called me for like 8 years.
So we've been using it for a while now too. And we have a new hire that's starting in the next couple weeks. And I was very happy yesterday when I was like, hey, before you come by the office today to pick up all the paperwork I need you to fill out, I need you to go ahead and sign up through the Builder Trend link that I sent you and download the app. And he was like, oh no, I got it already. And I kind of just like paused for a second and I was like, does the company that you work for now use it? And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay. I've had so many onboarding conversations with, project managers or carpenters over the last 4 or 5 years that we've been using online software where they're like, I don't, how do I put that on my phone? What do I do? How am I supposed to log in? And I'm just like, oh, we have somebody joining our company that knows the drill. This is going to be a whole new thing.
We're implementing a minor procedure with checking in deliveries because this whole supply chain management thing has made us mental. So we're just like, we'll buy something we need in 8 months and just have it shipped just so it doesn't disappear, but then it disappears within our world. And it's always found. So we added some custom fields into the PO so we could write where it was stored and stuff like that and find it later. And my supers said to me when I showed them this on Monday, they were like, are you getting us a secretary to do this?
And you're like, nope. But I am paying you for the time that you spend doing this.
Actually, what I said was, since you don't work on Saturday and I do, and we hang up a lot of bath hardware on Saturdays, because that's what I do with my laborers, I was like, I won't call you on Saturday at 8 a.m. because I can't find something, because it'll be in Builder Trend and we'll know where it is.
Yep, exactly. I like the daily logs for me, because I look at daily logs from yesterday in the morning before anybody gets in, and I can quickly send out a company-wide email saying, hey, Don't go there this morning because you clearly got done with that. We need to, change gears or whatever. I'm waiting for Mr. Basic to chime in here too, by the way.
Chime in.
So I'll pull Steve in here. So I was saying offline that we were really I was really super inspired by a design Steve did to hang a balcony off the side of a house and thermally and durability separated, because one of the things we see on these coastal homes that are oceanfront, you'll see so much that the architects will just be like, oh, you want a balcony? So let's take a 20-foot LVL, hook it up, with some Ticos to the LVL going perpendicular in the middle of the house, and stick 5 feet of those through the exterior wall. And it's always been our policy that we won't do it. We just won't do it because that LVL is going to rot out. This is from my dad. Those are going to rot out, and then it's going to be my problem. And how am I waterproofing all of that crap? Where it's going to get wind-driven rain crap and all that. So, we've had a solution for that. And then I had a client. I saw Steve's video, and a client. We were taking a house that we kind of built before on spec and basically duplicating it. We had a similar lot that they wanted. and we were going to take that house and just customize it for them. And one of the things they wanted was up on the third floor of this house. So like at elevation 35 above sea level, with full direct ocean exposure. They wanted me to give them a 5-foot deep by 20-foot wide balcony with a 4-panel sliding glass door. And I'm like, I really don't want to do it. I was like, because like I could do everything right and this could still become a problem for me. And it's way up in the air. And how am I fixing this? And then I had seen Steve's video, and I'm like, this is not that bad. We can do this. So we because we had rigging issues, because I have behind me dunes that I can't bring cranes on, and this house is so tall that like to lift over the top of it would have been super expensive. So actually, the way we re-engineered your design was we made it all up out of 3/16 stainless steel flitch plates, essentially. So I had my steel fabricator fabricate all the steel structure as a kit. With the spec that no one piece could weigh more than 150 pounds. And we basically hung the steel up on the structure. So we did similarly what you had designed, where there's LVLs, king studs in the wall. There happened to be a very major steel frame in this house anyway, so we had the wide flange steel beam right under the floor level anyway, and we basically enclosed the whole house. I had siding all done up to this. The windows were installed. Everything was, we do our own on-site ASTM testing for windows and doors, so that was all done already. And then at that point, we just sort of like paused and said, how the hell are we actually building this thing? And re-collaborated on it and set up a pump jack and just slowly worked on it, drilling through bolts in, Prosecco R-guarding the bolts where they came through the walls, layering on the steel. And over the course of 3 days, we installed this like basket hanging on the side of the house. And ironically, we have 2 balconies that are column supported on the second floor that are the same width and depth. And when you walk on them, they're all springy. And when you walk on this one, it's just like solid as a rock. But what's awesome about it is that I know that like if it's ever a problem, I can just peel that thing off the house with a pump jack, you know?
Yeah, without having to pull siding.
And I mean, any of the other benefits is thermally broken and all this stuff. And I have my drainage mat between all of that and my zip sheathing. And it's really cool. And I just want to, more than anything, say thank you for like the culture of sharing that you guys have created or are part of, that like a great idea like that gets to get built by someone else.
I always find it interesting. Architects are probably more of a criminal of this than some builders, although some builders think the same way. But if you invited some let's say architects, and you said, okay, we're going to go camp in the woods tonight. You know, it's heavily guarded. There's a big hill, no wind or any of that. They're going to come with a certain amount of gear. And then if you said the next day, you know, we're going to go camping again, but this time we're going to camp out at the edge of the jetty, right there, right at the water's edge. I'm guessing they probably bring different gear than they would the night before. But somehow
However,
they don't see that translation in the house, that the house should have different gear, that it's just the same house. I mean, I do a lot of coastal projects, you know, north and south of Boston. And in one house, I remember walking out back there. It had 4 inches of ice on the whole back side of the house. It literally looked like a iceberg, because there was a seawall. So the ocean was constantly smashing the seawall, throwing this mist in the air, and the mist gets blown on the house. And like window siding, everything. It was under this like 4 inches of ice. And it just, you know, it reminded me there that I can go across the street and it's a totally different environment, 100 feet away, 200 feet away, than it is standing right here. And I mean, obviously those projects are not the cheapest built homes, right? Just because of their location. And I'm not saying cheapest in building science sense. I'm saying it in aesthetic sense. I mean, those lots aren't the cheapest. So people who can afford those lots can probably afford some nice things, but that still doesn't translate into nice building science things that coordinate with that. So it's really,
what's kind of crazy is like we have ASCE 24, like flood standards, and like generally speaking, the building inspectors all get that and enforce it on us. And even if the architects missed it, like the code officials, even the more simple guys, they know the basics of ASCE 24 as it applies to what gets built in their village or town. But like at the same time, the IRC like just doesn't deal with the fact that a coastal home it's a boat. It's not a house, you know? And as a result, like I see this all the time. I have a job that we might be doing this year where like it's a sad situation where like I got brought in to like they were referred to me by another client. I don't really do a ton of like remodel work, you know, or things like that. But I had somebody where basically had a bad GC and they mixed PEX A and PEX B piping. And as a result, the fittings like blew off the other side because nothing was installed right. And like, so long story short, I was in this house, I had to cut every ceiling open of a $5 million custom house that was built 2 years ago and repipe the whole thing. And while I'm there, they're like, hey, can you just take a look at the siding on this house? And I'm like, sure. And it's all Marvin, premium, you know, the high end series, impact glass stuff. It's installed, it's on a bluff over the Peconic Bay and gets direct exposure. And it's a beautiful vertical and horizontal cedar installation. And they're like, yeah, so we've spent $100,000 repainting this house already. We've done it 5 times. And I'm like,
yeah, but you see that all the time. I mean, I see houses, they have a $200,000 window package or more and a $10 flashing kit. It's like, you're
Steve,
buying some of the best windows Marvin makes. And then you're buying the cheapest tape because, oh no, that other flashing tape, that stuff's really expensive. Well, no crap.
What do you think the WRB on that house was?
Black felt paper.
I'm guessing it was a house wrap.
If only it was black felt paper. It's Tyvek, not even Tyvek drain wrap, you know? And, you know, one of the things that drives me bananas is that what everybody goes, but my house is super airtight. And you're like, yeah, because spray foam is king in Long Island. So people are hitting their 3 ACH because they're just blasting closed cell spray foam for $40,000 in the walls. But we had a failure of a house that was blue skin, you know, VP 160 or 100, whatever the residential one is, installed over 3/4 plywood. And we did great numbers, like a 2.1 or whatever. Like for then, it was great numbers for us. ACH with a spray foam package and new cedar over the top of that. And no drainage mat. And I had done a bunch of blue skin in the city on our vertical job, so we knew it. And the first thing I said was like, don't we need a primer for this? And I called up the blue skin rep. He's like, no, the whole beautiful thing is that if you're putting it on wood, you don't need a primer. And I'm like, but like, it's like February, you know, and it's kind of wet out here. Is it going to stick? And he's like, no, it's good. So long story short, it didn't. And then we put the new cedar on it, which requires us to put screws in it like every foot. And it basically drank water through the spirals on the screws because there's no air barrier on the outside of that house. The air barrier is on the inside of the house. And we had like a few really critical like corners that would take the wind that we ended up, I mean, we just took whole sections of the new cedar off carefully, took off the blue skin, Prosoco'd the whole wall, put it back together, you know, and like dealt with the issue. We didn't charge the customer for that. But that was what inspired me that I'm like, we're just never doing this again. Like we're not putting rain screens on these houses because it's for the $10,000 that it costs. This house is the difference between 5 years of life and 50 or 100.
Yeah. What's interesting though is like even decent building science ideas might not be enough. I remember years ago, we were working on a house. We took apart the vinyl siding on this existing house. And we were totally renovating it and like tripling its size. But all I remember is the builder pointing out when we were taking off the vinyl siding, it was all packed solid with sand. So it's like the wind and the sand just, it filled like every void. And so the vinyl siding, you'd sit there and say, okay, well, it's acceptable rain screen, but it was packed solid with sand. Yeah, so even if you did the right thing, you might not have done enough.
That's the truth.
I guess the moral of the story is it's just a freaking challenging situation. I mean, it's a barrier coast with the barrier failed.
You have to verify.
There you go.
That's why what we had back in like 2016. we had this house we built, and it was the first one we switched to. We tried and put weather shield windows out, and nor'easter came in, but like not nothing crazy, just like a winter storm. And we come in to check this house. There's a spec on the market, and there's like second floor facing the bay. There's a little stain by the wood reducer on a double slider. And so we're like, that's we got to investigate that. Let's see what that is. And I had a thermal camera at that point. We're really banging our heads against the wall, and we just can't figure it out. So I called up our HERS rater and said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you come over here and put a blower door on this house? And I'm going to spray that thing with water." And so we put that house at negative 150 pascals, whatever the fan could do to that house. We did it, and we shot water at the door to try to make the door fail. And, the door failed a little bit, but not bad. It was a little spitting happening, but it wasn't bad. And it turned out that what was happening was it was where we had AZEK trim just screwed right into the mullion right next to it through Tyvek drain wrap was where all the water was coming in. And we looked at that and we're like, what the hell do you do about that? And we were in the Stone Age.
Are all of our trim packages screwed on like that?
Yeah. So we were in Stone Age. So what we did was take this trim off and route grooves out of the back of the trim to let water drain, But that's what inspired us. So that after that, we bought a little rig. It wasn't a lot of money, which is a spray rack and a little, gauges and a fan, like a shop vac with some gauges on it. And we run a 1105, ASTM 1105 test before we sheetrock every house now. We're just install
every window.
No, we do every type, but I don't tell them. I do it the way, I come from doing, buildings in the city where that's in New York City, that's code. I have to hire a third party laboratory to do that. So I've watched the real guys do it. And what they do is they just make you install a bunch of windows, and then they don't tell you until they show up which one they're going to test. So I do that to my guys. And for us, it's always a learning experience. And if we start getting a fail, then we'll go check another one or whatever it may be. And we just did a great one where we've been switching to fluid pans. And my carpenter window installer, the guy who I use for a lot of stuff, was like, I like the fluid pan, but can you just let me put a lead copper pan under these big doors anyway? And we'll put the fluid and the lead copper. And so he does that. And if you can believe it, in our market, it is extremely rare to not find bottom flanges taped right now on windows and doors. So I have to
I think that's national stuff.
I have to re-educate every single person who installs a window and a door to make sure that's not happening. And in any event, we run the test and we get into 30 minutes on a 12 wide slider. And we're 24 minutes. And all of a sudden, under the lead pan, which is all Prosecco air dammed on the inside, it starts to spit water. And I'm like, what? Not the door, under the pan. And I'm like, what happened here? And we have temporary plywood on the deck, so I can't see the lead pan. And I tell the guys, go take the plywood off. We finish the test, and I go take the plywood off. What could have happened here? And I go look, and the guys installed the lead pan the same way we tell them to install the windows. So they left the whole underside of the apron unsealed because they were thinking that should drain also, which I thought was great that they were thinking about that. But the problem was that in 30 minutes of the test of the cyclic, air pressure test, we drank enough water under that little gap to suck the water all the way back inside. And that's the point, to clients when they think we're kind of mental with some of the stuff we do. We're that ASTM test is not adequate for our environment, honestly. It's not real that you run only 30 minutes of a 50 mile an hour wind with a heavy rain. We could get that for 4 days.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I should get fake glasses like you, Jake, because it does make you marginally more intelligent looking. I'm just wondering if it would do the same.
They also make me more intelligent. They're not fake, because when I have to take them off to wash my face or take a shower or something, I have that terrifying moment that in a post-apocalyptic world where somebody breaks my glasses, I'm now the one that has to just crawl
you're
into
in the
a hole and
bathroom
die.
like this, where's the wall?
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
I'm equally
okay.
blind.
We have.
If I can't find my glasses, I need my wife to do it for me.
Yeah, the same here. If I dropped them and then accidentally kicked them, I would just have to sit and wait for somebody to come and help me. It would be impossible.
Next time we're together,
okay, so
I think I'm going to intentionally hide them on you.
Thanks, buddy. We're coming to the close. We got somewhere, 5 to 10 minutes max, probably, because I know that Steve has a heart out this morning. I want to hear about the building science conundrum that you are donating a little bit of your time on today, Chad.
So I was telling.
Oh, and don't tell us the solution. Tell us what the
I don't know the
problem is, and we'll see
solution
what
yet,
Steve says.
It could be a non-building science. It could be a maintenance issue. But I've had the true pleasure and honor of sitting through some Peter Yost building science puzzle classes.
Oh, great!
I know. Yeah, he was gonna get that reaction, but. But so I got recruited to be on the facility committee of my daughter's Hebrew day school in Brooklyn, and it's in the building is a 5-story new construction building that's about 10 years old in Brooklyn. So what that should tell you is it's half a condo, and then the other half is actually the school. And what that should tell you is that this is looks like good construction, but anything you see built in New York City, you should make the assumption that it was built as poorly as possible with as much hate in the process as possible, because that is the New York City construction way. And so in any event, I got the email, the first thing I'm on this committee that I've been engaged to deal with. They sent me an email from the woman the teacher there, or the assistant, I guess, who is both the facility manager, also the nurse. She's got a bunch of hats. So she's not a building science professional or building maintenance professional at all. And they're chasing leaks with their rooftop air conditioning units on the roof of this building. And it starts off with that these water leaks have only begun since the COVID required us to start doing 5 air changes per hour in the school building for ventilation purposes. And I've been advised that the compressors only have 5 years left on them and all this other stuff. And they've run actually what's a pretty good set of preliminary investigation before I got there, which is that she and the roofer have been tarping one unit at a time. They couldn't even figure out which one it was for a while, because I don't know why they couldn't figure it out. So in any event, they've been over time putting a tarp over the unit, waiting a few weeks, and then figuring out which one was the leaker. So they figured out one's a leaker, and they don't know why. They don't know, is the pan inside it rusted? Is there something else going on? So the first question I had in my preliminary was, when you say 5 air changes per hour, what do you mean by that? How have we determined that we're doing that? And we might be bringing the air in, but are we letting any out? Because one of my concerns here is that potentially we've just created an enormous negative pressure situation, or positive, in this school. And this pan is fine, but this pan is pressurized, and just any water that gets into it is just going to just never leave because of that. Same reason why when I put an air pressure chamber on a sliding glass door, until I turn the fan off, that track's not going to start weeping.
And so the first part of this entire thing is, they're asking the building to do something that it wasn't necessarily designed to do, and they probably didn't consult their HVAC guy or their builder about whether or not they should do this to the building.
Exactly. And I mean, more than anything else, like I said, how did you come up with what that actually means? How do you know you're doing 5 air changes? And when I started asking the head of the facilities committee, who was around for this, he's like, we weren't even consulted. I have no idea how anyone figured this out. As far as I'm concerned, they just turned the fan on all the time, So
running the fan all the time means there's more infiltration from outside stuff that might have humidity, it might have moisture, it might have whatever.
I didn't want to be
their
a
idea
smartass.
is dilution.
Yeah, I guess I didn't want to be a smartass, but code when that building was built in New York City was that the building itself only had to be airtight to 6 air changes per hour. So the reality is you technically probably don't have to do anything to achieve 5. But that said,
has anybody blower door tested the building?
The building's a little too big for the equipment we have, but I have the instant solution in here, which is that New York City, and one of the reasons I've sort of pulled out of doing it is because it's become layers of complexity that are unnecessary. And as I was explaining, not so politely, there's no value on a good builder in New York City anymore. The value is on a cheap builder only. And so that's just not who I am, and I don't really want to do it. But like this building's big conundrum, why they triggered to us is that they were just going to deal with it themselves and bring a little crane over. The building's only 5 stories, pick this thing up so someone could look underneath it and see what's going on. But they can't do that because there's a subway there, and there's a new rule after a crane collapse 3 years ago that you have to have MTA approve any use of any boom, any type of hoisting equipment, which the preparation of the documents costs about $40,000 for that. So
because the crane could create point loading issues above their substructure.
Correct.
See, those glasses are working for you. You're wicked smart with
I've done this before. We did a building. This little toy right here. This building we built over here is supported on 155 micropiles that are, the closest one is 4.5 feet from a 19th century subway tunnel. And I had great friends now with a MTA inspector who had
What's a micropile?
It's a concrete.
It's a pile, but smaller, Steve.
It's a drill. It's essentially a caisson. It's basically what we had 2 different types for the MTA side within the MTA's influence line, which is like a 2-to-1 slope from their foundation. We had to do a different method than where we did on the rest of the site. But basically, the way it worked is we took a used oil pipeline pipe that had teeth cut into it, and they hook it up to an Italian rig that basically you pump water into the center of that tube, you spin it with a hammer drill, and you drill it down 75 feet, and then you drop a single threaded bar that's like a 2-inch diameter into the center of that, and then you sort of straighten that out, and then you pump grout in there. And for the MTA, you have to use retracted casing because they're worried about you blowing concrete through their wall. So in that case, once you put the grout in, you hook the machine back up and you back the casing out to reveal the bearing area of the column. Because we had like a stratum of like good soil, and then we had peat, and then we had good soil. So we had to disconnect the building from the peat and the stuff above it. So we had a 25-foot casing that remained. The micropile, Steve, technically is really cool technology out of Germany, where the much faster way to do it is you drill in your casing to disconnect you from the bad stuff, and then you drop that same threaded rod in, which that has a drill bit head on it with jets in the head of it. And as you drill, you pump grout at the same time, and it's like a cowboy operation. You're just like, you cannot hit, if you hit a boulder, you just got to drill harder. Otherwise you got a problem. You got to rinse out all that grout. So you just drill down your 75 feet while injecting concrete cement, grout at the same time. And then when it's done, you just chill, make sure you keep flushing the thing out to get good rich mix. Take your samples, you're done, move on to the next one.
Interesting. Okay, well, this was enlightening, and I'm going to call this an introduction. Chad, are you going to IBS this year?
I am, yeah.
Okay, make sure
What's
you
IBS?
Connect with... That's Steve's favorite joke, because the first time that I went to IBS, he said, "Hey, are you going to the Builders Show?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." He was like, "No, the Builders Show in Vegas." And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, explain." He's like, "No, it's, IBS." And I was like, "Dude, you're going to have to use different words or something." So he picks at me when we talk about IBS that, like, I had no idea what it was before I went the first time. And I only went because Steve was like, "You should go. It'll be fun." And I was like, "Okay."
We used to go, my dad's pattern used to be, even if it was Vegas, that my dad doesn't like staying out of the house. So we would fly there in the morning on a 5 a.m. flight, do the show, walk 10 miles and fly home. But that day. But now there's a nice community of people around, and I like to hang out a little longer. So he might do that, but I'll be in Florida for a few days this time.
Okay. Well, make sure you connect with us. Chad, plug your IG as well. You have 2 different ones, correct?
Yeah. So I'm at Chad Gess. That's ChadGess. And then also we're at First Dunes. First Dunes, the way it sounds.
Okay. They're a good follow, especially Chad's personal page with the stories and everything. It's good stuff, man.
And I want to thank you guys just real quick. Thank you for having me, and also for the community you guys are a part of and built, because very inspirational, and you're doing good things for both the clients and the builders. So it's a great thing, and thank you.
Well, thank you, and continue to share your stuff too, because I think it's pretty interesting. We always talk about exposure and risk and all these things, and we always use if you're building on the shoreline analogy, is you're going to have to do a better job. And I don't know very many builders that actually have to build on the shoreline and have to do a better job. So Steve, do you have closing thoughts or anything?
No.
He's going to say
Steve,
no. I knew he was going to say
Are
no.
you gonna design my next house or what?
I'm ready when you are, buddy.
Let's do it. All right, I'm emailing you offline. We have a brand new lot for a spec house. We just got in contract.
There you go. I'm ready
There
to
you
come
go.
down there.
Okay, so if you watched on YouTube today, this is our first Zoom call YouTube video.
I've done Zoom calls before.
No, this is our first one that we published to YouTube.
Oh.
Try to not listen. If you're going to listen poorly, just don't listen. Deal? Now he's just sitting there. This is my favorite part. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you listen to us on whatever format you listen to the podcast, just the audio version. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and spread the word. We're trying to actually educate other people, as Chad said. We're trying to share this content.
You should say something catchy like "spread the word so we can spread the word."
There you go. You heard it here first. Thanks for watching the Unbuild It podcast. Till next time, Chad. Thanks for being
man.
a guest.
It's been a treat.
Thank you, guys.
I'm trying to close
Appreciate
this
it.
out. No, I appreciate the story. It's really cool.
I agree. I look forward to connecting with you at IBS, man. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Pleasure, yeah.
Bye now.